Oh, cap 'em, my cap 'em. What's up? That's the best I can come up with.
David and I were just talking about how our openers don't have the same zing that they used to. We were trying to think about what we could talk about that's happened in the world right now to some light fare, and we decided on not talking about the ICE killings in Minnesota because that's not a fun way to open the show. And we decided not to talk about American imperialism getting Greenland or Iceland or any other country. I guess we could talk about ICE going to the Winter Olympics as well, which is probably going on right now when this episode comes out. But yeah, there's not really a lot of great topical openings for us to do anymore. So we have to resort to oh cappin' my cappin'.
Just like Ted Cruz escaped Texas again, we will escape having to do a good opener.
Now that's a good opener. I like that one a lot.
We should have thought of that first, but we didn't.
We really should have. Wow. Hello and welcome back to the Uncultured Pop Culture Podcast. My name is Brandon, your co-host, and with me, as always, is your other co-host.
This is David. I like how you're still a co-host, even though you're introing the whole podcast.
We're both co-hosts.
That's true.
That's how it goes,
That's
you
true.
know? It's like the pilot and the co-pilot, but the co-pilot is still a pilot. We've talked about this before at length on this podcast.
Yeah, like every single episode.
You know, as we approach the end of the season, we find ourselves going back to what was once familiar. We are repeating the patterns of the old days.
Exactly. We're becoming nostalgic.
We really are. Just like we were super nostalgic for, well, I don't even know how bad everything was in the 50s when watching this movie.
I guess.
I don't know.
How bad parents were.
Yeah, exactly.
Dare I say, oh, co-pilot, my co-pilot.
Ooh.
See, we should have opened with that.
Oh my God. See, we're now that we started the episode, we know what we're doing. But it's just that starting the episode, we didn't know what we were talking about. But we're here, and we're here to talk about growing up because we have an album about growing up and transitioning into adulthood, and we have a movie about growing up and kind of being forced to transition into an adulthood that you don't want.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
A lot of fun stuff to talk about.
Exactly. And some would say that's applicable to us because we've been forced into an economy that does not want us around, you know? So
just a world that doesn't really want us around. Not even an economy.
It reminds me of a quote from last week by Brian Wilson. I just wasn't made for these times.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Beach Boys, your favorite artists, maybe that we've ever done. And I'm hoping that what I thought would be the indie effect last week will be the indie effect with our indie album this week.
Just wait. That's all I'm going to say.
We'll have to wait a little bit to talk about that because we have to talk about what we watched and listened to this past week. And you know what? I always ask David the question first, but instead I'm going to make him ask me the question first this week.
Oh my God.
We're going to switch things up.
I think that I actually have a question for you. This might come as a shocker to you, but I got to ask, what have you been listening to this past week?
Wow, David, I'm so glad you asked. I listened to a bunch of terrible music because we're back to New Music Friday. Having things come out, and my God, are they not good? But we did have an interesting mixtape, and it's called EDTS by IDK. That's a lot of letters to throw at you. EDTS, yeah, stands for no, that's the wrong order. It's ETDS. I fucking wrote it down wrong. Man. The Devil Smiles is the acronym. But anyway, so whatever. IDK is the rapper. That is his name. And it's very good. It's interesting. I have liked IDK for quite a few years, and I feel like he says on one of his songs, 10 years in the game and I'm still underrated, which, you know, that is true. He's very underrated, and I enjoyed this mixtape. I thought it was quite fun. If you like Kaytranada or Conductor Williams, if you know who those people are, I would recommend listening to this because they do a few beats each on here, and they're both very good. So shout out to that.
Shout out.
And I have a song this week, too, and that song is by a friend of the show, in fact. Snail Mail is back with a new album coming out in April, and she has released the first song off of that album, and it's called Dead End, and it is great, I must say. It's very 90s influenced, which I when starting this podcast, I don't think I would have said I liked, but now I've come to appreciate the 90s. We've listened to quite a few albums from the 90s, and you know what? I've liked them more than the albums from even older than that. So, we're making progress, I guess. But the song is called Dead End, and it's very good. So if you like kind of alternative / indie rock from the 90s, and you want to hear Snail Mail's music because you liked the episode where we covered her, I would recommend checking this out and checking her out because she's going on tour, which I would love to see because she starts her tour in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I don't know. I might be thinking about that. But
I might have to go.
David, I know you've watched something in this past week. What is that thing that you've watched?
I've watched Leaves Blowing in the Wind. No, I'm kidding. I actually saw a new movie. Is it new? I feel like it's been out for a long time, but just on limited release because it's a smaller movie. I saw The Testament of Anne Lee, which is a movie with Amanda Seyfried, and it's directed by Mona. I want to get this right way. Mona Fastvold, who was married to Brady Corbet, who directed The Brutalist.
Yeah,
who co-wrote it with her.
Oh,
so I was very intrigued because I had kind of like a mixed reception to The Brutalist. So I was very intrigued going into this, and I'm happy to say that I did like it more. It's a 3.5 out of 5. I like it. I do have some issues with it, but overall I do think it's a pretty good film. And I gotta say, Amanda Seyfried and Lewis Pullman are both amazing in it. And I think she was absolutely snubbed. We kind of talked about this in the Oscars episode, but she was absolutely snubbed because she was amazing in this film, which I was not surprised by. She is genuinely, typically really good in everything.
Now, Amanda Seyfried, she was also in The Housemaid, correct?
That's right.
How would you rate her performance in this movie versus her performance in The Housemaid?
I mean, she's just given so much more to do.
So you would say this one is better, surprisingly?
Yeah.
Wow, I never would have guessed.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? It's kind of crazy though. She is having like critical acclaim for this film, and then she is having box office success with The Housemaid. Like, this is her year so far.
Hell yeah, that's pretty good. I like her. Everything I've seen her in, she's been very good in. So, shout out.
Shout out.
But enough talk about current movies. We need to talk about a movie from decades ago, from the 80s, that actually takes place in the 50s. But before we talk about that, we got to talk about an album from the 2000s that seems like it's very applicable to the 2020s.
Yep.
And of course, that is Boxer by The National, their fourth album, released May 22nd, 2007 by Beggar's Banquet Records. Now, let me give you a brief introduction on The National. The National is guitar and piano players Aaron and Bryce Dessner, who are both twins, brothers Scott and Brian Devendorf, who play the bass and drums respectively, and unrelated lead vocalist Matt Berninger.
Mm-hmm.
Some mix of them wrote every song on the album, and some sources have retroactively changed the credits, so all of them are writers on every song. And also, some places list Matt Berninger's wife, Karen Besser, as having contributed to the lyrics on the album as a whole, but Wikipedia lists her as a writer on Brainy and Gospel. I am going to be reading the credits as they appear on ASCAP's database because that is generally the most correct. But just so you know, the other members may have also been credited now. There were 3 singles released from the album: Mistaken for Strangers, Apartment Story, and Fake Empire, in that order. All of them were after the album's release. And now it's time for my question for you. Have you ever heard of The National?
Never before. I knew nothing about them.
What did you expect their music to sound like, if you had any expectations?
I mean, from the poster...
Album cover. You're in movie mode. It's okay.
I am so in movie mode. I was just kind of expecting like something that sounded a little bit dark, like heavier metal. Not metal, sorry.
Oh,
heavier rock.
Yeah, heavier rock.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I expected. So I wasn't really expecting what I heard going into it. It was kind of like I'm not going to say pleasant surprise, because I don't think I would have hated like heavier rock, but it was kind of like, oh, this is fun. Like, this is interesting.
Interesting. I'm expecting a 3.5 now.
We'll see.
The album was critically acclaimed and it made it on many year-end lists, including first place on Paste Magazine's list of 2007. It deals with the transition into adulthood, and friend of the show, Grace, told me that it was named because of the band's constant fighting while recording. I was not able to verify this, but she has seen them live multiple times and knows a lot more about them than me. So
right.
I figured that I would trust her on that. I also did see them live at the Hollywood Bowl. So
Ooh,
shout out.
That sounds
They were
like
very good.
a great venue to see them at.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. Highly recommend.
I also got to say, I feel like every week we're like, oh yeah, the band fought.
Pretty much,
Like,
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that seems to be a constant when you have people together, is that they fight. You
Yes.
know? I'm waiting for our multi-episode arc where we're just openly fighting with each other on the podcast. But we'll have to wait.
Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't started
No.
yet.
We'll see. Maybe next episode. Who knows? I think genuinely with what we're going to be listening to next episode, I think we might be virtually fighting each other.
Hey, I'm always up for that.
But anyways, check the Instagram if you want to see what we're listening to.
Hint, hint.
Anyways, the recording process was split across 2 stints at Peter Caddis's studio in Connecticut and the Dessner's house in Brooklyn. It was tumultuous because the band felt like they were recording songs that essentially didn't exist because they couldn't finish writing them. Aaron Dessner said that they were listening to the album on the way to get it mastered and questioning if it was good that day. And the album cover is a picture of the band at Peter Caddis's wedding performing music. I believe it's 2 songs off of their previous album. Now, I'll tell you who Peter Caddis is in a second, if that's even how you pronounce his name. My apologies if not. We have a connection first, though. Sufjan Stevens played piano on Racing Like a Pro and Ada, and of course, he has a connection to Pimp a Butterfly, our Christmas episode, and the film Call Me By Your Name. So that's pretty good. We're collecting a lot of connections now. And Dove Man played keyboards and accordion on the album. And spoiler alert, he will come up as a connection in a few short weeks. So remember that name. All songs on this album are produced by Peter Caddis and The National. And it was mixed by Peter Caddis. I feel the more I say his name, the more I feel like it's wrong, the way I'm pronouncing it.
I kind of like it like that, though. Like I like the way you pronounce it.
And this album was mastered by Fred Kevorkian. Shout out to Armenia. Shout out
God
Jennifer.
Damn it. Oh my God. Okay, we're back out like
I knew
fighting
I had one
over
there.
saying this. Can I just say I need to find something for you that I can like do that to, you know? That I can like steal.
If you can ever find people from Wisconsin, I am okay with you shouting them out. Actually, I would encourage it because there are not a lot of us.
I'm just going to start shouting out Wisconsin. How about that?
You can do that. Yeah.
You see, that's the thing. It's not a competition, though. That's the problem.
That's true. I'm not competitive
God
enough
damn
over it. I don't know. You got to find something else. I don't know. We'll figure it out. That's what season 2 is for. So come back in a few weeks for season 2. You know, we're gonna be workshopping a whole bunch of new things. We're gonna figure out how David can fight with me and be openly hostile towards each other on the podcast. You know, we got a lot of things in store cooking up.
We got to find ways to do it.
Yes, very exciting. Now, I did not select a favorite song for you on this album because I genuinely don't know if you will have one. And I was kind of leaning towards all of these songs kind of just being 3s or 3.5s. So I want to ask you, do you have a favorite song?
I mean, I do, but it is very like, I don't know, it is very what you said. Like, it's barely my favorite song compared to like some of the other songs.
Okay, yeah. That's
kind
of what I
figured.
figured.
Is still different.
Oh, okay.
I will say that.
Interesting. Well, let's jump into it with track number 1, Fake Empire, written by Bryce Dessner and Matt Berninger. This song could be about America or about growing up, or maybe it's a mixture of both. Matt Berninger said that it's a song about going out and forgetting your troubles. If anything, it's more about trying to avoid thinking about the state of the world. And verse 3 of the song also brings in the idea of adolescence, which is, of course, a common theme in this album. And I wrote one note about this song. It feels like the type of song that plays when the male lead is walking home in the middle of an empty street in New York City at 3 a.m. after either telling the girl he loves that he loves her or breaking up with the girl, but I can't decide which. I rated this song a 3.5.
So, again, like I said before, I didn't know what to expect. And the tone was different to what I thought it was going to sound like based off the poster.
Album cover.
or yeah, my brain is still in movie mode. It's always in movie mode. I literally wrote down poster on my notes, so I can tell you.
That's all right.
Yes. But I do like it quite a lot. I like this tone. I like the sound. It's very production forward, which I do enjoy quite a lot. In some ways, bits of it feel almost country, even though it's not country for sure. But I feel like, and this kind of comes back in some other songs, I feel like it has a little bit of that twang sometimes.
Interesting.
Yeah, and also the singing style is very interesting. It reminded me of Leonard Cohen, which I don't know if you ever heard of any of his stuff, but it very much reminded me of him.
Yes, I was going to ask you what you thought about Matt Berninger's voice, because it is very unique, and that's kind of the thing that sets them apart from a lot of other bands that sound like this.
Yeah, it's very, very unique, and I think it mostly works. Although sometimes I do want something a little bit more different, but we'll get there.
Okay.
But I do think that it generally does work quite well and kind of sets them apart. This is a 3.5 for me.
What a surprise.
I enjoyed this. Yeah,
Let's
what a
go.
surprise. And yeah, I wonder if you guys can imagine what most of this album will be.
Okay, I'm at least glad that we are locked into 3.5 right off the bat, because
Yes.
I feel like if it wasn't a 3.5 right off the bat, I would be a little nervous that you wouldn't like this throughout the whole thing. But I think that you are going to give this the average indie score, and you're going to say, you know what, it's all right. So that's good.
Man, I'm so predictable.
It's all right. You know, I will probably be predictable at some point this episode too, because I think most people are going to know what I think of Dead Poet Society, including you. So, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I have an inkling.
I also did forget to write down and mention that this band is technically from New York City, but all of the members are from Cincinnati, Ohio, and did know each other then, but they didn't make a band until they were in New York, which I think is kind of interesting. But shout out to Cincinnati, Ohio, because that's kind of not really anywhere that we've talked about before on the podcast, I don't believe. Anyway, track number 2 is Mistaken for Strangers, written by Aaron Dessner, Bryce Dessner, and Matt Berninger. There is a interview that Matt Berninger did with Paste Magazine where he explained a few different lyrics on the albums, like from around the album. So I'm going to read those when they're available. And this one has one. This is his quote. "There are lots of moments on the record about friends disappearing and losing friends and stuff like that. The line, 'So you swear you just saw a feathery woman carry a blindfolded man through the trees,' alludes to the idea of someone's spirit being taken wherever it goes after death. I'm not actually very religious, but it's a metaphor, being taken to heaven by an angel. But it's not so much about the spirit as it is about having seen something unbelievable and the need to tell someone that there are things out there that are amazing. I've seen something I need to tell you about. I think that's what it's about. A lot of the lyrics I write involve images that just swing the song in a way that feels really good to me, and there isn't a literal explanation. They're not riddles for the listener to solve." So I thought that was pretty interesting because it echoes a little bit of System of a Down, of talking about, you know, we just write stuff and then you figure it out. And that's kind of here.
Which I like. That's like the David Lynch approach to movies.
Right. I think that's the way you probably should be writing art, is what feels good, or making art is what feels good to you and what communicates what you want to get across. And like you said, they're not riddles for the listener to solve, even though it seems like a lot of the times we do want to solve them and figure out what they're about, including myself. And that's why I didn't have a lot of notes about the lyrics on here. It's because, well, you know, that's up to you to interpret, the listener of this podcast and of this album, because I know if you're listening to this podcast, you definitely listen to the album. I'm watching. I'm making sure.
Check the Instagram hint.
Anyways, I wrote down that this song continues the theme of growing up and changing, although it feels more like the main character of the song is forced into being changed, much like Neil in the film. I gave the song a 3.5 as well.
I feel like to a certain extent with this album, it will be so specific to each person, how they interpret it, that you kind of can't, like, not that you can't, but it takes some of the fun out of it, of being like, oh, this has to be what it's about. Not saying you can't like present your idea, but I don't know, it kind of makes it's like everyone has to explore it themselves, which I know we've kind of mentioned for some other stuff, but I definitely feel like that's very, very true for this specific album.
Yes, it's very abstract, and there's a lot of things that you will latch onto in different ways that other people won't. Like, I'm sure we both had very different reads of this album.
No, yeah, and so I do completely agree with what you said. This song, interestingly enough, feels quite different to the first song to me, even though I do feel like across the board the songs are generally very similar. Like, you do have the indie effect present, but it did just feel different. Maybe tonally it felt a little different. And I do feel like that tone didn't work as well for me as the last song, even though I did still like enjoy listening to it. I will say the purely musical parts of this song were my favorite parts. But I do kind of feel like it is a step down. It's a 3.
Interesting. Yeah, this one, at first, I was not totally sold on it. And the more I listened to it, the more it grew on me, which I will
might
say,
happen, so we'll see.
That is definitely the theme of this album, because the first time I listened to it, I was kind of like, okay, that sounds like The National. Like, I know what they're like. And then the more I've listened, it's like, oh, I am actually enjoying different parts of it that I didn't really pick up on at first, because it is very subtle as well. It's very like
yes, it is.
Soft and kind of understated album, despite it being like very well produced and very lush overall. There's a lot going on, but it still feels like very hushed in general.
I feel like you need to listen to this in a quiet place by yourself.
Yes, for sure. This is a late night album. A lot of people have said that, and I feel very much the same. And I should say, which I didn't say before, this is my first time listening to this album. I know The National, and I've heard, I think, 4 or 5 albums by them all the way through that I've liked, and then their 2 most recent ones were not good. So that's another story, though. And Aaron Dessner has kind of gone off and worked with Taylor Swift and Gracie Abrams. So you might know him from that if you have heard his name before, dear listener, and you're thinking, wow, I feel like I know that name from somewhere. Taylor Swift and Gracie Abrams are the ones. And yes, his production style can get a little boring, a la Jack Antonoff. But, you know, I think in the context of the band, it works quite well up until their 2 most recent albums.
When it hits, it hits.
But we have track number 3, Brainy, written by Aaron Dessner and Matt Berninger. And this is another one that he spoke about. This song is about someone trying to pretend they're smarter than they are, and also maybe trying to catch up with somebody who they believe is way ahead of them, much smarter. I think the idea is there are things I'm learning that maybe you don't know, and you need me, and you should trust me, because I was reading the American Dictionary last night. The part about boning up is also a mixed metaphor for, lust, and also studying. That song has a lot of weird details, like keeping fingerprints in folders as though you're collecting information about someone, but not just someone in an investigative sense. It's more like there are things you might not know, and I'm finding these things out so that you'll need me more than you think you do. I wrote kind of what you said about the last song. This song is all right, but not as memorable as the first 2. I like the verses, but honestly, I'm just not a fan of the word brainy, which is repeated multiple times in this song. This one is a 3. It's all right.
That's quite ironic, because I feel like this song feels more cohesive to me than the last 2 songs. So this song is actually a 3.5 for me. Kind of alternating now, but
Classic.
I did want to say, I feel like this song is perfect for an indie road trip movie. Like, I can see it in that. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of these songs are...
A lot of them are
very much like indie movie. And I'm surprised that I think most of all, I'm surprised that they haven't contributed to the score and or soundtrack of a movie yet, because their music is very cinematic and feels like it should be in that realm. You know how Sufjan Stevens got Call Me By Your Name? Like, they need that moment, I feel like.
Especially because I feel like back in the day, it might have been more rare, but these days, I feel like so many artists that typically write music have transitioned into doing both, like, songwriting and soundtracks.
I mean, yeah, you got Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, and of course 9 Inch Nails was the other one I was thinking about. But yeah, there's all kinds of artists. There was just this one dude who used to make dubstep back in the day who just announced that he's composing music for a Game of Thrones spin-off series, and I was like, whoa, where did that come from?
Is it the one that just released? Because there's one coming out right now.
It's either coming out right now or it's coming out in the future. I didn't recognize the name of it, and I do not give a shit about Game of Thrones. My apologies. But it's cool still, so shout out, I guess. Track number 4, Squalor Victoria, written by Aaron Dessner and Matt Berninger. This song is seemingly about the monotony of a desk job, but it might be a little too monotonous and unformed for me. It is very easy to get lost in, but not in a way that's super interesting. This is a 2.5. This is my least favorite, and that's the lowest I go. There is another song that's a 2.5, but this one I just don't really like.
I mean, I agree with you that it's weaker than, the previous songs, but I want to go, for me, it's not that low. It's a 3. But I do think that it just doesn't work quite as well. And I honestly didn't have much to say about it. It's kind of hard to compare these to anything. It's very specific.
Yeah, and I feel like this song, kind of like I said, is very much like it starts and then it ends, and it's just kind of the same thing throughout the entire song.
There's not much to say about it.
Right. If you like that, then you'll like this song. To me, this one just didn't really capture me as much as any of the other songs, actually.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
I guess this is the perfect time for me to ask you, do you have a least favorite song?
Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think I really thought about it.
That's kind of what I assumed. There's no songs on here that stick out as being like, this is really bad. Like, this song is still good. It's just not really that interesting to me.
Well, and the interesting thing that happened to me while I was listening to it is that throughout a listen of a song, my score would fluctuate wildly,
and then always end up at a 3.5 or a 3.
Pretty much. Well, that's the interesting thing. I feel like every song or most of the songs start off in one place and end up in a very different place. Like, the way that they transform is very interesting. I haven't seen that in a lot of the other music that I've listened to. So it was really interesting listening to it and seeing how much it just changes throughout each song. And I was not expecting that either.
That's a good point.
Well, I feel like typically it also makes their songs really interesting. Although, as we will see, it does affect one song negatively later on. But I won't say anything else about that.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree with that, though, because a lot of their music I find to be very complex.
Yeah.
Like, musically, and then lyrically, it's almost like simple, but it's not like, that's not negative.
No,
like,
yeah.
it works with the complexity of like what's going on around you to just have this like very straight, almost like perfect idea of start to finish of what the song's about. And I'll kind of talk about that with one song in particular coming up later. But first, we have to talk about track number 5, Green Gloves, written by Aaron Dessner and Matt Berninger. And I have a Matt Berninger quote for you. And it's a long one, don't worry. He likes to talk a lot. My apologies. I didn't edit these because this is actually what he says. So
Hell yeah.
Here we go. It was hard to take that song and guide it away from being a stalker song or about somebody breaking and entering or somebody violating someone's personal space. It's more about trying to remember someone and sort of be them, someone that you've lost your connection with, maybe because of a death. So you reconnect with them by getting inside their clothes, watching their videos, getting in their bed. You're actually recreating them somehow in order to know them better. You miss them so much that you have to become them. If there's someone you absolutely miss, you might find yourself talking to them a lot in your mind, creating those fake conversations with them, and you answer yourself in their voice in your head. Maybe it's a girlfriend who dumped you, or someone who died, or that sort of thing. You adopt their personality or the memory of who they were as a means of staying close to them. People talk about spirit, but I have this idea that when we die, we're gone. All that lives on is our memory and how we affected people, the way we changed people throughout our life. Whether you've had a good effect or a bad effect on people, that's your afterlife, the people who live on after you. He has such a way with creating these long sentences that kind of restate the same thing over and over again, but in a different way. But that also it offers new insight each time he says it. And it's very interesting because this is not how he writes songs at all.
Not at all.
Like, the songs are every word is carefully crafted. And I find that so interesting when you see or hear about the artists behind the work, is often who they are as people is so different from what they create. And I love that because I think it's so interesting that you can contain multitudes, So shout out to people, shout out to artists.
I also want to say, I totally understand what he's talking about because I feel like that's something that I do.
You become another person in a non-stalkery way.
Yes. I mean, I don't become them, but
Yeah.
Like if I miss someone, I'll think like, oh, like imagine if we're doing this, and then I'll have like conversations in my head. Okay, I am pretty crazy, but I mean, everyone knew that already. So
I mean, that's an introvert thing to do. I feel like I do that too. You know?
that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's we're processing emotions somehow. Anyway,
That's how we process.
I won't make any further comments on that. Anyway, I have one thing to say about the song. I think this is a decent song, but it's missing the moment that makes it extremely memorable, like some of the other songs on here. Like, I feel like it's good from start to finish, but it doesn't have that thing that just like brings it over the top. Like I feel like the first two songs have. So this one is a 3 for me.
In some ways, I feel like this song is kind of like their version of a ballad, if that makes any sense.
For sure.
And I think that totally tracks with what he was talking about. Like I can see that in the song after hearing that quote. I will say the indie effect was kicking in really, really strong here at this point. But I still like the song. It's still a 3.5. I think the beginning is slower and it's a little weaker, but once it starts to get going and starts to build, that's when it gets stronger for me, which maybe goes to your point about, there being something missing. I could see it like, since it doesn't really start to get you like until a little bit later, then it never fully gets there for you. It does work for me, but it's still like a 3.5, which is we should just like coin that as David's indie score, 3.5.
I will tell you that is written down in the description of the indie effect, so don't worry.
Okay, nice.
Track number 6, Slow Show, written by Aaron Dessner, Bryce Dessner, and Matt Berninger. This is, of course, from Matt Berninger. That one's actually kind of literal, wanting to get out of some anxiety-filled public situation where there's a party of something and you just want to escape and be home, close the doors with someone that you really care about, and just be stupid and laugh. Forgetting about social pretenses and how you have to act in public, you can just be a fool with this person, ugly and awkward and silly, and they won't judge you. This is the song that I wrote. This feels the most like a classic The National song. It has quirky and kind of clunky lyrics in the verses, a chorus melody that's almost whispered over very simple chord progression, but with a lot of complex instrumentation that feels very full. And the outro of this song is an interpolation of their song 29 Years from the debut self-titled album, and that's about Matt's wife, Karen Besser. And I wrote that this song is okay. It's a song that I won't skip when it comes on, but I don't think I would actively seek it out. It is a 3.
Up to this point, I feel like this is actually my favorite song.
Oh,
it just feels the most interesting to me. And there are elements of it that I really like. I think the guitar opening is really, really good. I also think the vocals are very, very interesting because they feel almost even more kind of mumbly compared to the other songs.
Yes.
Which I feel like maybe continues on as the album goes in some ways. I will say I do think that this song is too long. I think that's the main issue I had with it. I think if it wasn't as long as it is, which I mean, compared to something like Prince is not even long, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It would have maybe even gone higher in score, but as it is right now, it's a 3.5 still. But it is my favorite song up until this point. It's not my favorite in the album though.
Nice.
So
maybe that's track number 7, Apartment Story, written by Aaron Dessner and Matt Berninger. The genius annotation of the first line of this song, I feel like perfectly describes it. The Nationals got a penchant for writing about the unmagnificent lives of adults. It's a song about the simple and boring parts of life that you don't consciously think about, yet they make it feel like such a pivotal moment in the story of the life of the album. And I'm realizing that I like the upbeat songs a lot more on this album, which is not usually the case with The National for me. This one, however, is a 4, and this is my favorite song.
Oh, I'm not going to say I wasn't expecting it because I honestly didn't think about what was your favorite song, but that's very interesting. Ironically, this song kind of feels to me like a softer version of Slow Show.
Oh, interesting.
Like I feel like those two songs are linked, but that could honestly just be the indie effect getting me. I also, at this point, was kind of running out of things to say.
Yep.
So
I expected that.
Yeah, this is a 3.5. Not my favorite, but I do like this song quite a bit.
Track number 8, Start a War, written by Aaron Dessner and Matt Berninger. I'm going to take a page out of David's book here. I don't know what to say about this song. It's a nice, soft song about a relationship falling apart. This is a 3.5.
I don't have much to say. So what I'm just going to say is that it's a really beautiful, soft song. with my favorite production so far, it's a 4. This is my favorite song.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Nice. We're right next to each other.
I know. I gotta say, I feel like that's the first time that's happened.
That probably is. I mean, I don't know. We say that a lot, and I don't remember anything. So that could be the first time that's happened.
Yeah, so we have no idea.
Track number 9, Guest Room, written by Aaron Dessner and Matt Berninger. And this is Matt Berninger talking about the lyrics. You'll find us here in the guest room where we throw money at each other and cry, which I believe is the chorus. It might be the refrain. The way this song and a few of the songs on the album are structured are really weird, where there's like multiple hooks, essentially. Anyway, this is what he said about those lyrics. Oh, that was sort of stolen from Grace Paley. She's got a collection of short stories called Enormous Changes at the Last Minute, and there's a scene where some guy chases a woman down a sidewalk, and at one point they're having this argument, and she throws like $3 and change at him. It's one of those really heartbreaking and absurd moments where it's so pathetic, but it's also kind of hilarious, you know? They're screaming at each other and she throws change in his face or something. So yeah, that was kind of taken from that. And then I think it was used in the song to represent those awkward, intimate moments where you have those really stupid, ugly things that you do in a relationship when you get fed up with each other or whatever. You do things that are just ridiculous, but then eventually you let each other off the hook.
This is very interesting.
I wrote down that this is another classic example of I don't know what to say other than this is a really nice song. And I also very much like the outro on this song. I feel like that's very nice. This is a 3.
I mean, I also don't have much to add. The end effect was going strong here. And I feel like here is where I started to kind of feel like it would be nice for a different style of singing every once in a while. That's just kind of what I want. But honestly, it's still going strong for me. It's still 3.5. I will say the fact that all the songs kind of mesh together for me maybe keeps everything at a 3.5, but I'm fine with that. I'm not angry at that.
I mean, that's a classic indie effect right there. You can't be mad at it.
Yeah, literally.
Track number 10, Racing Like a Pro, written by Aaron Dessner, Bryce Dessner, and Matt Berninger. This song is about the future life that the graduates of Welton Academy would have, is what I wrote down.
Yep.
I did not like this song on first listen, but it has grown on me every single time I've listened to it. And now I feel like it's one of the most important story songs on the album about like the idea of what the album is trying to tell you. It is still a 3. And this feels like the perfect time for me to mention that I feel this about this album the same way I do about the Slow Dive album, which is the more I listen to it, the more I'm going to like it. And I am starting to like the Slow Dive album more.
Right.
And I feel like this one is just going to get better with time, like the more I listen to it. Because like I said, this past week has been the first time I've listened to this album, and I've listened to it multiple times. And I still feel like there's more to go. Like I will still discover more new things about this album that I like.
Yeah, no, I can totally see that. Yeah, I had an interesting, for lack of a better word, relationship with this song because I really, really like the opening. I just wish the rest of the song was as strong as the opening because I just feel like it wasn't cohesive enough. And I feel like if it was more cohesive, it would be a 4. Like this would be up there with my favorite. As it stands, it's a 3.5. I don't think it fully works, but it's very close to being there. And I will say that will kind of continue throughout the rest of this, like throughout the rest of the songs.
Nice. We got 2 left. Track number 11, Ada, written by Aaron Dessner and Matt Berninger. I wrote down that this is the type of song that comes out of hanging out with Sufjan Stevens a lot. It's not super memorable to me, but I do think it's good, and it's a 3.
So when this song came on, my first reaction was, oh my God, this is the best song in the whole album. This would be perfect for a Western. Like I can hear it. This should be used in a Western. And then it continued playing and it kind of got all over the place to my sadness because I really love the beginning. If the rest of the song kind of kept on developing what it was doing in the beginning, this would absolutely be a 4 in my favorite song, but I really feel like it kind of fell apart. And this is where I kind of wish that the song kind of hadn't quote unquote developed as much. Like I feel like it got away from what it was in the opening by the end. And I kind of wanted to keep listening to the opening and for it to keep having the feeling that it had in the opening, which I feel like it strayed away from. So this is where I was kind of talking about how sometimes the way the songs kind of develop work to their detriment for me personally, because I really like I love the first part, but the rest of the song just did not work for me really. It's a 3.5 because of the opening, but if the rest of the song was like the opening, this would 100% be a 4 in my favorite song.
That's particularly interesting because track number 12, Gospel, written by Aaron Dessner and Matt Berninger, I feel like this song doesn't come together for me. And that's a page out of the David playbook right there.
Yes.
There's something about this final track that I had that same reaction to you that you'd had with Ada, that I just don't know really. Like, it's good, but I feel like it's a little bit all over the place. And I feel like I might like this more in the future, and I don't know if I'm ever going to love it, you know? Like some of the other songs, I feel like I could get to a point where I love them, like I do with Apartment Story. But this one just didn't come together for me at all. And this one's actually a 2.5. So kind of a weird note to end the album on. I do think it works within the story of the album, and I don't think like I've said this before, I feel like all of the songs need to be on this album because they tell the story.
Right.
And some of them I just don't like as much. But this one is one of those where it's just kind of like, all right, it's there, it's all right. But I don't know. Most of the time I feel like I understand where songs are going and why they do things. This one was one where I was just kind of like, I don't really get it, I guess. So yeah, it's a 2.5.
I actually agree with that. I feel like in some ways it's similar to the past two songs. They don't fully come together, but with the past two songs, I really loved the openings, and those kind of kept them at 3.5s, especially with Ada. But with this song, I feel like the whole song is kind of just formless. Like it doesn't really come together. And yeah, this is a 3 for me. I don't hate it, but I think it's just very fine. I kind of wish that Ada was the last song on this album, although I think this song should be on the album, maybe just not here.
That is kind of the problem with story albums, is I feel like the track list has to be this way. Just the nature of me not really liking this song kind of leaves me thinking, okay, the album's over, you know?
Yeah.
But there's nothing really that I would change about the order of the songs necessarily, because I feel like they're all supposed to be here. It's just kind of one of those unfortunate things where it's like, yeah, I just didn't really connect with the last song as much as I would have liked to. But now we've reached the end. And before we give our scores, I want to ask you, will you listen to this album again? Or will you listen to certain songs from the album again?
I mean, I would have definitely have listened to Ada if it was more cohesive for me. I was literally thinking to myself when it first came on, wow, I'm going to listen to this when I'm working on my projects and stuff like that. So I'm so sad that it's kind of not fully there, but I'm honestly might still listen to it.
You might learn to love it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I will come back for sure and see. But I mean, I'll probably start a war to a playlist of mine because I would like to come back to that and listen to it again. I do feel like it's kind of difficult for me with indie albums because they feel like one whole thing. So I have trouble like going back to one song sometimes. But I will go back to those two songs, especially with Ada, to see like how I feel about it in the future. So we'll see.
I might have to make just an indie playlist of all of the albums we've listened to on the podcast, and then you just shuffle them and just see if anything stands out to you when you're just listening through a bunch of random songs, you know?
Yeah.
Because that might be another way to do it. Because we made a little bit of headway with Dante's album, Tennis. Now I feel like we've kind of slipped back a little bit. We haven't expanded on that progress of getting you to find the differences between indie songs. And you know what? I don't know how to do that. Because actually, you know, this album I felt like I would have liked before going into it. I had a score in my mind, which has ended up like the score that I gave it. Wow, surprise, surprise. Anyway, I also had a score in mind for you, which was, of course, a 3.5, which I'm assuming you will say in a few minutes is your score of this album.
I mean, honestly, let's just not beat around the bush. It's a 3.5. Like, yeah.
It's a 3.5 for me, too. So
who would have thunk it?
Yeah, we're in agreement. How about that? I feel like the indie problem that we have on this podcast is one that I don't know how to solve. And I would like the listeners to weigh in and let us know, what indie albums should we do? How do we make David love indie music as much as others in the world, because I know he is able to do it.
Please let us know.
I know we can get him there. But yeah, overall, this album tells a story. It's about growing up. It's about kind of that early 20s time where you have become an adult, but you don't really know why or what to do, I guess.
Right.
I liked this album a lot. It's also very quiet, very somber. Like we talked about, it's perfect for the nighttime.
Yeah.
And I have to say, this album cover perfectly captures the vibe of these songs. I feel like we often don't talk about the album covers of a lot of albums, but I love this one. And I feel like that's part of the reason that this was the National album I wanted to do, is because I liked the way it looked a lot too, which, you know, underrated. The way an album looks can influence the way you feel about it.
That's very, very true. I mean, it definitely gave me an idea of what I thought it would sound like, even though it ultimately didn't sound that way in actuality. So,
and you know what? That's actually good. They're breaking apart your expectations.
Literally, yeah.
I don't know if this is necessarily a success.
But I mean, we still enjoyed it.
Yes, it's another notch in your indie experience. And we found a song that you like, which is important.
Very
and I
true.
feel like those are the kind of wins that I need to focus on, is even in the sea of 3.5s in this album, we were able to get a 4 for you. And that's what really matters, because we found something that clicked a little bit more than everything else. So
that's a very good point.
You know, I would say that is a success then. And on that note, we got a movie to talk about.
A movie that you will potentially like. I honestly have no idea at this point.
Really? I thought earlier in this episode, we said everybody knows what I'm going to say. So
I mean, I do think I know what you will say.
I guess before we start, what am I going to say, or what is my score going to be of this movie?
Your score, I mean, I feel like your score will be similar to, not your score, but your feelings on the film will be similar to Good Will Hunting and Ordinary People. I don't think it's going to be as high as Ordinary People for sure, and probably not as high as Good Will Hunting, but I'm saying
that was
maybe
a 5 and a 4.5 for everyone.
Yes, I'm saying
in the audience.
It's going to be a 3.5 or a 4. I think I'm going to go with 3.5 ultimately.
Okay, nice.
I think that's what it's going to be, but we'll see.
Sounds good, because the movie that I was thinking about while watching this was, wow, Good Will Hunting is actually kind of similar. And
They're
it's kind of crazy
similar.
that they put Robin Williams in a very similar role a few years into the future.
Of course, these are the two films that he got nominated for, and ultimately, of course, who won for Good Will Hunting. So, yeah.
You know, and I support that. This is also our third Robin Williams movie of the podcast, which is pretty good. That might be the most by an actor outside of like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which kind of counts as one movie in my mind.
Yeah, that does too. I think he is our most watched actor at this point. So
that's pretty good.
He is the Francis Ford Coppola of this podcast of actors.
Yes, although we've only done 2 Francis Ford Coppola movies.
Yeah, but I think that's still the most we've seen for one director so far.
We had 2 Mike Nichols too. So.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
And we had 2 Spielbergs.
Right, I take it back.
We had Jaws and we had Jurassic Park.
Oh my God.
But
okay.
Francis Ford Coppola technically is our most watched director because both of his movies are long as fuck. So that's definitely the most time we've spent
Yes,
watching.
they count as like 4 movies
exactly.
or something. Yeah, that's a good point.
But anyway, without further delay, let's talk about the movie.
Let's talk about the IMDb logline first.
By the way, this movie is called Dead Poets Society. I'm trying to tee you up so you can say the movie because it's your section. But I'm just going to do it, I guess. This is Dead Poets Society.
Let's go. Let's talk about poetry. So I'm going to tell you a poem, aka the IMDb logline. So here it goes. Maverick teacher John Keating returns in 1959 to the prestigious New England boys' boarding school where he was once a star student, using poetry to embolden his pupils to new heights of self-expression. What the hell is that?
Oh my God, why is it so long?
Why is it so long? And why does it focus on Keating even though the boys are the main characters?
I don't know. That's not very good. I would rate that 1.5 out of 5 logline.
Yes. That was not a good logline. I'm sorry. I brought a bad poem.
Now I get to laugh at you, and then your mentor is going to close your eyes, and you're going to spin around in a circle and deliver a beautiful poem right off the dome.
I wish I had a mentor.
Me too. You know, I think that's the lesson that we've learned from this movie and Good Will Hunting is we just need a mentor.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the theme of Hollywood, because when I was first learning how to write stories, it's like, oh, now you get to the beat where you meet the mentor.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what? That hasn't happened in my life.
Then again, we haven't gotten calls to action. So, kind of tracks. Let's get to the credits. Get those out of the way. Because I have some interesting stuff to talk about when it comes to the production. So here goes. The movie is directed by Peter Weir, who is, of course, Australian. Might be our first Australian director.
That might be.
I didn't know that until I looked up the, behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, I think he is, because we've, of course, had a Kiwi director.
We did.
Peter Jackson. But yeah, I believe our first Australian director. The movie is written by Tom Schulman and is produced by Stephen Haft, Paul Younger-Witt, and Tony Thomas. The cinematography is by John Seal. The film is edited by William Anderson. The music is composed by Maurice Jarre, Jarre. I know about this composer. He's very prolific, but I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce his last name. Apologies. And it's distributed by Buena Vista Pictures Distribution, which I feel like at this point, like 70% of our films have been distributed by Buena Vista Pictures.
Disney, yeah.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird. We've had a few in a row here that are all Disney ones. And this does not necessarily feel like a Disney movie.
Well, that's the thing. That's a Touchstone film, which was their live action production company. So they would make all the live action films. And so because of that, because it was kind of separate, even though it was obviously under the Disney umbrella, I feel like they could make movies like this and people would be like, oh yeah, that's not a Disney film. That's a Touchstone film. Whereas now they don't have that. So they just do all that stuff through Searchlight, I think.
True, yeah. And even then, there's not that much. I feel like there's not a lot of stuff coming through Searchlight right now, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
I am excited, though, however, to hear how the writer of this movie almost screwed it up, because I have a feeling that that's coming, especially because it's a Buena Vista one. There's definitely some sort of thing where they came in at the last moment and were like, you know what? We should do this ending instead of everyone at the school kills themselves. We just have one guy kill himself.
You want to guess who also gives that piece of advice?
Oh, I'm going to go...
AKA someone that talked about it before, like that we've talked about before.
It's going to be Jeffrey Katzenberg, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Let's go. I'm excited.
I mean, maybe he didn't specifically give this note, but he is involved.
Okay.
So that's all I'm going to say.
I just, once you said Buena Vista, I was like, there's definitely a formula here that we've talked about before.
Yes. It's kind of the same thing where if a movie is doing pretty well, then you know that Harvey Weinstein is going to come in and start messing with stuff.
True.
It's kind of the same thing where if you see Buena Vista Pictures Distribution, you know that Jeffrey Katzenberg is involved and some sort of advice was given.
And it was good.
Yes, and it was good advice. Although, again, like I said, I don't know who the advice came from in this film, because when I was looking up, it just said it came from the executives, but he was an executive at that point. So, I did want to throw out some of the names of the actors who star in the film. Obviously, the film stars 5 or 6 teens, but I included the main 2 plus Robin Williams just because I feel like this movie does kind of have 3 main characters ultimately.
I agree.
So it stars Ethan Hawke, of course, as Anderson. What's his first name again? I literally
Todd
forgot.
Henderson,
I just saw
right?
this. Todd, thank you. I was thinking Toby, and I was like, that's wrong. So yes, Ethan Hawke as Todd Anderson, Robert Sean Leonard as Neil Perry, and of course, Robin Williams as Mr. Keating. So let's talk about it. As you could probably tell, writer Tom Schulman was inspired by his own life. He went to the Montgomery Bell Academy in Nashville, Tennessee. John Keating was inspired specifically by the teaching style of Samuel Pickering, who was Tom Schulman's teacher. So he wrote the script, and he actually sent his first draft out to Touchstone Pictures, which was, as I said before, a subsidiary of Disney, where it was picked out, which is kind of crazy because you don't typically send out your first draft.
Damn.
Yes. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So here we get to it. Of course, as I said before, Jeffrey Katzenberg was in charge of Touchstone Pictures at this point. And one of the executives did put out the note. It was an executive or Peter Weir. So it was someone involved in the production of the film, but they did make a change because in the original script, John Keating was supposed to be sick throughout the whole movie from something deadly like leukemia or something, and he was supposed to die at the end of the film.
There it is.
There it is.
That's terrible. Yeah.
Yes. So they changed that to have the film focus on the group of kids, which I think is
Which is the
100%
correct
right.
choice.
Yes.
As always.
I will say there was a stupid note from Touchstone where they suggested that the boys' passion be dance rather than poetry, and they suggested that way they could change the name of the film to The Sultans of Swing.
Oh my God. Okay. That is
So they go with the bad.
That is very much like an executive who got there, who's good at like one thing, and then they were like, I have this idea that I've always wanted to do. And then they just suggest it all the time. And it's like, all right, shut up.
Yes. I will say the good note could have been from Peter Weir too.
We love to see an Aussie king stay winning.
Exactly. You go, you Aussie King. The thing is, like, getting to the Aussie King being on board was kind of all over the place. I tried to find like a timeline, but I couldn't because it was like a bunch of different people were involved at different points in time. So it's all over the place. But at some point, it seems like this film was actually supposed to be Dustin Hoffman's directorial debut.
Oh, wow.
And he would also star as Keaton. Or Keating, sorry. That's a hard name. Keating. I cannot imagine this with Dustin Hoffman. I mean, I think he would have been good, but I still can't imagine it.
No.
With him as
It
Keating.
is definitely
Like,
Robin Williams. It's supposed to be him.
Yes. Who I believe was like Touchstone's pick. Like they wanted him first. At another point in time, Jeff Canoe was attached to direct. I also read that when he was attached, Mel Gibson was supposed to play John Keating, which, I mean, if he did, then
Wow.
John Keating would have been like a homophobe in the film or something. But anyways,
I was going to say, he would have been super
yes.
racist too, probably.
Yeah, super racist. Which, hey, that's probably why he was
Shout out Mel Gibson, I guess.
Shout out Mel Gibson. Well, it tracks. He's at an all-male white school, so he would have fit right in.
That is true. Yeah, did you see a single person who is not white in this movie?
No.
I did. I saw one black extra, and that was it.
Oh, nice. I mean, that tracks for like 99% of movies made before like 2014 or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Mel Gibson asked for too much money, though. So
Thank God.
That's why he didn't eventually come on board. Eventually, Australian director Peter Weir had a meeting with Jeffrey Katzenberg. That's right. This is where he comes back specifically by name. Who, as I said before, was in charge of Touchstone at this time. And during the meeting, Katzenberg suggested that Weir read Schulman's script. So Weir got the script and he read it when he was on a plane flying back home. And then he returned 6 weeks later to cast the film.
Wow.
So he was on board.
Nice.
Yes. Which kudos to Jeffrey Katzenberg for giving him the script. Again, like, regardless of what he might be like in real life, to other people, I think he has a very good eye for like talent and for like, filmmaking.
That man knows film for sure.
So Williams did come on board. As I said, he was Touchstone's preferred choice. And so we began casting the group of boys. Some big names did come up, and 2 names came up that were tied to a film that we've seen that's very similar to this film. Can you guess who it was?
I mean, that makes me think Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Yes, they auditioned for the film.
Really?
Yes,
wow.
They actually auditioned. And River Phoenix, who I'm sure you've heard of,
Yes.
really
R.I.P.
wanted the role of Neil Perry. But Weir wanted to cast unknowns. So all of those actors were out. He wanted pretty much unknowns to star opposite Williams, which I think honestly works, even though Ethan Hawke and Robert John Leonard would obviously go on to become very big. I think, if you enter this film without knowing who they are, it does just kind of make them feel like, yeah, these are actually boys. Like it reinforces their very good acting, I feel like.
Yes.
So I think it works. I did want to say when he first met Weir, Ethan Hawke's first impression of him was that he spoke funny. He had never met an Australian person before.
Nice.
And he had just started attending Carnegie Mellon, but decided to join the film. That's kind of all I have about casting. There is not too much info about this film, I will say, but I was able to find some stuff. A lot of it is about Robin Williams and Ethan Hawke, though, which kind of tracks. They're kind of the two main characters of the film, with Neil being kind of like the third main character. But they filmed at an actual school. It was called St. Andrew's School in Middletown, Delaware. And they also filmed in the Everett Theater in Middletown, Delaware, which I believe was used for the theater that Neil Perry, acts in.
This is 100% the first time that we've brought up the state of Delaware on the podcast.
Yes.
And the first time that I've heard of a movie being shot in Delaware.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that was possible.
I mean, the reason why they shot in Delaware is because they needed the snow. They first were going to film in, I believe, Georgia, but they realized they would have to add snow and it would be too much trouble. So they just decided to film in Delaware.
I will say the snow actually looked real for once, which was crazy.
Yes.
It never happens in movies.
Which I believe it was just real.
Yeah, probably.
Well, because they filmed November 1988 to January 1989, so there would be snow falling.
For sure.
So it's perfect. Yeah. And just like Shulman went to a preparatory school, so did Weir. He went to the Scots College, which is a private boys' school in Sydney. So he kind of brought all that and used all that he remembered for just the feel of the school, everything from like the costumes to the discipline to all of that, which I feel like you can see it. It feels very legitimate as someone that has never gone to preparatory school.
Oh, for sure. I mean, also props to him for knowing that that's like such an important aspect of the film and also being equipped to be able to direct that. Yeah. And that makes you wonder as well, did Katzenberg know that when he handed him the script?
I could see that.
He went to an all-boys prep school and they were like, oh, yeah, we got the script that deals with that.
Yeah. And I will say, like, obviously, even if you hadn't gone to that, you could, like, imagine it. But I feel like it's definitely different imagining it and actually having gone through something, like an experience like that. So I think it definitely brought something.
Especially being able to work with actors,
yes,
too, and to be able to inform them of what the experience is like.
Yes. No, I completely agree with that. He also, obviously all I keep on saying boys just because I don't know how else to reference to them.
I mean, yeah, I'm fine with that. They're younger. You can tell.
Exactly, yeah. The boys obviously either were not born or were like a baby in the 50s. So Weir gave them books that would pretty much detail everything that like kids their age would experience. So like music, radio programs, music, pretty much like everything that they like kids in the 50s would take in. He gave them books on all that stuff. He also told them not to use any modern slang even off camera.
Oh wow.
I would feel that so fast.
Yeah.
I feel like he also referenced to Robin Williams as Robin Keating because he said he wanted the character in the script to be shaded with 15% of Williams' own like improv and dialogue, which you can definitely see. And I think was very smart because it just makes him a very like relatable character.
Realistic.
Yes, and realistic, yes. Now, someone that didn't seem to like Williams' comedy, at least at first, was Ethan Hawke. He came onto set seemingly very like serious about the production, to the point that he was almost doing like method acting. He was like, oh my God, I'm an actor. I gotta like commit. I gotta do all this stuff. So Williams would try to get him to laugh in between takes, but he was like, no, I'm not gonna laugh. Like, I'm in character, which tracks for, when you're like 15, 16, 17 or whatever. And you're like, oh my God, I'm on set. I gotta be an actor, So Hawke would never give in and just found him irritating whenever he would try to make him laugh. And Williams, in turn, was bothered that he couldn't make this kid laugh, so he kept on trying harder and harder to make Hawke laugh. And Hawke eventually became worried that Williams disliked him because he wouldn't laugh at all his jokes. But as it turns out, when the film came out, an agent reached out to Hawke, and he was like, hey, I want to sign you because Robin Williams said that you're going to go very, very far as an actor. And that agent went on to become Hawke's first agent. That's a confusing sentence.
that agent became his first agent.
Yes, his first agent. But yeah, it seems like Williams stuck his head out for Hawk. He also did learn a lot from Robin Williams, Hawk has said. And I actually have a quote from him. Quote, Robin Williams didn't do the script, and I didn't know you could do that. If he had an idea, he just did it. He didn't ask permission. And that was a new door that was open to my brain, that you could play like that. And director Peter Weir liked it, as long as we still achieved the same goals that the script had, end quote. Which I think that points to like what a good actor can do and how important it is to kind of let your actors try things, because you never know what's going to happen. Like I said, most of my notes are about Hawk and Williams, and that's true of my second to last note, because it also seems like Hawk understood the complexity of Williams as a person and of his emotional life. He called Williams, quote, a deeply, deeply sensitive person who was highly attuned to the energy of a room, end quote. And he recalled that pretty much like, he recalled something that he noticed, which kind of made him not surprised at, Williams's sad death. He recalled, quote, he's making up lines and everybody's laughing, everybody's praising him. Then I went to get a glass of water, get a bagel or something, and I saw him hiding in a little corner. He was hiding in the dark by himself. And I thought, okay, it makes a lot more sense to me now. It was a lot. It was taxing, end quote. So it seems like he kind of understood the duality of someone like Robin Williams, where, everyone is like, oh my God, like, he makes you laugh, he's so outgoing, et cetera, but there's stuff that you don't see behind all that, which I thought was very, very interesting, especially because they kind of did have a rough beginning with each other. So it's very interesting to me that he was kind of the person that maybe saw that on set. And my last note on the filming, to kind of get back to the shooting of the film, after they shot the scene where Neil dies, because they actually, I should note, they shot this film chronologically, which is not usual at all.
I was wondering about that, because I feel like it is the type of movie that you would want to shoot chronologically.
Especially because you don't have a lot of like changing sets, stuff like that. So it would be easier to shoot it chronologically, and I feel like it makes sense for the group of boys.
And there's
like
also
you can see them becoming friends more.
Like,
true,
yeah, but yeah, no, for sure, the friends aspect for sure. Like, it feels like they just get more comfortable with each other as the movie goes on, outside of just like acting together. Like, it seems like they actually like as real
became
people
friends.
also like became friends for sure.
Yeah, so I do think that it does really work, and what he did, because they did shoot chronologically after they shot Neil's death, he actually kept Robert John Leonard off set because he wanted to create a real sense of loss amongst the actors, which I think worked, obviously. And I think that points to, again, like what a good director does. Because I think he is a very good director, Peter Weir, and I think he's kind of overlooked when people talk about like, oh, the really good directors, stuff like that, which we'll probably talk about when we talk about the film. But the movie came out June 2nd, 1989, which kind of weird to me. I would have thought it would come out like Christmas or something like that, because it feels like...
Yeah, that's not the right time for that movie to come out. We've had that a few times where it just comes out at the wrong time of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it really feels like a fall movie to me. I don't
absolutely
get why.
Which is perfect for us doing it in February, like...
Literally, yeah.
What were we thinking?
It paid off still. Its budget was $16.4 million, and it made $235 million.
Damn.
Which is crazy, even though it never reached number one at the box office, which I feel like was more typical back then.
I do want to say, 16 million budget. What happened to these movies? These are the types of movies that everybody's always complaining about disappeared. That is not that huge of a budget, and it still feels like you've captured something great with this script and with these actors. And it didn't cost over $100 million, which is what every movie seems to cost now.
No, literally. I think a big part of it is like the big actors are paid even more now.
Which,
and honestly, it's too much.
Yeah, it's good that they're being paid for their talent, but like also, I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you a little bit.
When one actor is like 30% of your budget, I think that's wrong.
Yes, you have fucked up at that point. I agree.
But that's wrong. But like, yes, like get paid in millions, I get that. But when your budget is 60 million and your main actor is getting paid 20 million, like what is going on? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the critical front, It received positive reviews, but they weren't like, it wasn't acclaim. There were some large figures like Roger Ebert and Pauline Kael who had less positive things to say, although Kael did like praise Williams. And it does seem like, there are quite a few people that do have kind of issues with the film. Like they don't think it's that good of a film. It did seem to reach a lot of people though, regardless. Kurtwood Smith, who obviously plays Neil Perry's father, actually told a story about how at the premiere of the film, he saw a domineering father enter the screening with his family. And after the film ended, Smith saw the dad leave and he was crying. So it did affect a lot of people. And I think that's why it's still a very popular film to this day. And it still affects a lot of people on a very deep level. It still is very popular for its, themes of nonconformity, for being an example of Williams's more dramatic work. A lot of people actually call this his best dramatic work, even better than something like Good Will Hunting. It's also shown to a lot of frat members because of the similarities between the way that the Dead Poets Society started in the film and the way that a lot of frats were actually started in the late 18th century. So it seems like the way you see it happen in the film is kind of how most frats actually did start. So they will show that to frat members. Now, while its critical acclaim maybe wasn't the best, it obviously did receive Academy Award nominations at the 62nd Academy Awards. It got nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Williams, and Best Original Screenplay, which it actually won. So it won 1 out of 4 nominations.
That's still pretty good, though.
That is still pretty good, and I do feel like it's deserved for Best Picture, Best Screenplay. Although thank God they cut out the Keating's being terminally ill.
Yeah, there's always something that saves the movie.
There's always something, I know.
And
bow down to Jeffrey Katzenberg.
I was going to say, guys, next week,
yes,
I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about Jeffrey Katzenberg again. Hint, hint, go look at that Instagram.
I think so. But yeah, this film, like I said before, is still very popular. It's well remembered by many, but it is in a lot of ways divisive. And I kind of want to kick my questions off with a big reason why it is in some ways divisive. And that is, a lot of people argue that Keating was actually responsible for Neil Perry's death because of his teachings. Because they say that's the whole reason why he decided to still do acting, et cetera, et cetera. And I actually wanted to get your thoughts on that. Do you agree with that idea that he is the one that's actually kind of responsible for that? And what do you think about the film's teachings in general? Of nonconformity, of taking that jump, of carpe diem, all that kind of stuff.
No one is responsible for exposing the injustices and the unfairness of the world and of capitalism. Mm-hmm. And of society, American society as a whole. Mr. Keating doesn't have to pretend, I guess, that the world doesn't work in this way. And I don't think that necessarily means he's responsible for it. In a way, yeah, because if Neil never knew that this is how the world would work, this would have just happened at a later time. Mm-hmm. And maybe he would have been a little bit better equipped to deal with it or whatever. But at the same time, it's better that he knew the truth, I guess, about what was in store for him in the future and what his father expected and what the world expected as a whole. So I don't think it is his fault for, I guess, exposing the way the world works. What do you think?
I completely agree with that. I don't think... obviously this is a very complicated thing to talk about, but it 100% isn't, Mr. Keating's fault for that. It's not like he was oh, go defy your father.
Right.
And then if it doesn't work out, then, I feel like saying that he's responsible is just putting everything into really black and white, which even if you put it into really black and white terms, I still don't think it's his fault.
Yeah.
Especially because I feel like if Neil had told him, hey, I didn't tell my father and I'm still doing the thing, like I'm still acting, I feel like he would have honestly said, tell your father first, like talk to him first.
Exactly. I
You know,
agree.
I 100% feel like he would have done that. So even then, I don't think it's his fault. And I feel like you can even see him kind of question if Neil did talk to his father when Neil lies to him. So I do completely agree with that. And I think ultimately, you know, he's a teacher. He's trying to do what's best for students. And I think that for a teacher, that should be your paramount, you know? Like, yes, there are consequences, and yes, your students should know those consequences, but there are consequences to everything in life. And no matter what, like if you're a bad teacher, there are different consequences, for instance. You know, like if you just teach them from the textbook, there are consequences to that too.
Yeah.
So,
Because ultimately it functions more like a college class than
Yeah.
like a high school class. And I think that's part of the problem is because, you know, there's been a lot of writings about what the function of high school is, especially in America, which is essentially to just indoctrinate you into becoming a cog in the machine
yeah.
of capitalism. And Keating kind of took that as, no, I'm going to teach them to critically think and to become their own person.
Which is what it should be about.
That is kind of the problem, is once you start thinking, then you start having your own ideas. And then that's where we run into problems because there's no room for you to have your own ideas when you're just supposed to be essentially a number, not a person.
And now I'm going to say that you're going to give this 4. Just throwing that out there. After that, although I still don't know what to expect, I did want to ask, because this is the second film that we've seen where Robin Williams is giving a dramatic performance.
Yes.
But how does this compare to you in terms of his performance to Good Will Hunting? And honestly, how does this film just compare to Good Will Hunting to you? I know it's kind of hard to compare.
God, that's the ultimate question, because when I finished this, I was kind of like, all right, well, this reminds me of 2 movies. One in the reaction I had to it, and one in the score.
I'm very intrigued.
Which ironically, both of them are the same for both. But those 2 movies were Good Will Hunting and Call Me By Your Name. And I'll spoil my score. This is a 4.5.
Oh my God, that's higher than I thought you were going to go. That's crazy.
Yes.
Brandon,
So I
have to throw something out. Congratulations.
4.5?
It's a 4.5 for me too. We're in agreement.
Let's go. Wow. Okay,
go.
this is pretty good.
Yeah.
I do want to say that I had a hard time kind of separating this from Good Will Hunting because I feel like they're both very similar, but they both deal with, I guess, similar ideas, but in a way, I like Dead Poets Society a little bit more. Like if I was ranking those 3 movies, I think Call Me By Your Name is number 1, then Dead Poets Society, then Good Will Hunting, even though they're all 4.5s.
I agree with that ranking.
And I like all of them a lot. Comparing it, I think Robin Williams is great in both movies, of course. I think Matt Damon and I think all of the kids in this movie, because it is a little bit more ensemble-y, are all very good. And I don't know really what else to say other than I like both of these movies and I want to watch both of them again. And maybe at that point I'll be able to give more insight. But I had like when this finished, I was like, oh, so I guess Good Will Hunting, they were really like, we saw Robin Williams and we want to do that too and do it just as good, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, interestingly enough, I do, you know, like I said, like both films, and I think he is equally good in both. I do kind of feel like he fits this role just a little bit more in some way, even though it's not like, oh, like he fits it because of this one reason. I feel like I just like fully just see John Keating on the screen when he's on there. Like he just fits into it perfectly.
I will say it is interesting to have watched Good Will Hunting first and then this one after.
Yeah.
And also before I had seen either of those movies, I have talked extensively about my favorite show ever, which is Community. And they have an episode that is almost like a parody of this movie, which I never really, I knew, but I guess I didn't really consciously make that connection. And the whole time I was watching the beginning of this movie, I was kind of like, oh, I guess that is just kind of like the Robin Williams, like giving a dramatic performance guy. Like there's just a certain air about Robin Williams' dramatic acting that just, I don't know, I really like. It's super believable. And
I think he is overlooked as a dramatic actor, to be honest.
absolutely. And I feel like I have always loved comedic actors in dramatic roles because I think there's just something more that they can bring to it. Similarly, I really like dramatic actors in comedic roles.
Yeah.
When you're doing something that you're not like, I don't know, supposed to do. I don't know if that's even the way I want to phrase it, but like there is a different
but
level
we all know what you
of
mean.
yeah, there's a different level of like, I don't know, it brings something else to the performance that you can't really capture with someone who's done it a million times.
Well, I think it brings the opposite into it. Like it brings some comedy into a dramatic performance and vice versa. And that kind of, I feel like that gives more weight to both.
Yes,
like
I was going to say
gives
it
more
rounds it
depth
out
to
more.
both.
For sure. Depth.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
perfect word.
Which I think is another reason why this film does work so well, is because it is genuinely very funny in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And that both makes it just fun as a film, and it makes like the heavy parts of it feel that much more heavy.
100%.
Which they should, obviously. I also, you kind of touched on this, but I did want to specifically ask what you thought of Robert Sean Leonard and Ethan Hawke, because obviously, they're both now very well known. Ethan Hawke, he has been in a bunch of big movies, obviously nominated this year at the Oscars. And then, Robert Sean Leonard, he's known for House and, all his work in TV too. So they're both very big, but this was like both of their first big roles. At least I know it was for sure for Ethan Hawke, and I'm pretty sure for Robert Sean Leonard.
Three name people
it
is
throws
hard.
me off so bad. But I wanted to know your thoughts, because this was kind of like for them, both of them, their first big role.
I want to ask you the name of the other guy, Charlie.
Charlie, yes.
What
Let me
is
look it
his
up.
actor's name? Because he's on a Fox show called Best Medicine right now.
Really, I had no idea.
And yes, and I was watching this movie and my mom was like, "Oh, that's the Best Medicine guy," and I was like, "What?" Because I had a hard time keeping these guys apart, or like keep telling them apart, because it's face blindness and they're all just white dudes that are the same age. So
yeah. Well, and I will say, the whole cast, like the whole group of boys, all of them do an exceptional job.
I agree, but I guess
his name is Gail Hansen.
Okay, is that actually who I'm thinking of?
I think he's someone else. Charlie Dalton, right?
Maybe it wasn't Charlie. Maybe that's...
Was it Josh Charles who was Knox?
Oh, it is definitely Knox.
Oh, okay.
See?
That's what it was.
Okay,
yeah.
this just proves my point, because I don't know who the hell these people are,
Yeah.
and I can't tell them apart. Knox is the guy who's on Best Medicine now. Okay.
Who is arguably like the third lead protagonist out of the boys.
Fourth. But yeah, the third boy.
Third
guy,
boy.
because
Yeah.
Robin Williams.
Yeah. Third boy.
Okay, now that I finally kind of know who these people are, Robert Sean Leonard, I think, stole the show.
He did.
I think he was incredible. And then I think I really liked Ethan Hawke, but I liked this Josh Charles. That's his name. Now I know. I really liked him as well. And I thought that he also similarly was just extremely memorable, which I know is ironic to say after I forgot who he is. But, that's just how it goes sometimes. Anyway, I feel like he was another one that I was really interested in his performance and his character.
100%.
And overall, I was very impressed by these young men acting.
Which I think in large part speaks to Peter Weir as a director, his skill as a director.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And I find it interesting when people say that older movies, like young people are never that good at acting in older movies. I have not really felt that way almost ever on the podcast of everything we've done. Now, maybe it's because we haven't watched enough like shit movies yet.
Yeah. I mean, we also haven't seen like movies with actors that are like actually kids, like 5 or 6. Although actually wait,
that's
The Sandlot.
I mean, Halloween.
That's true. I take it back.
The Exorcist. Yeah.
Okay,
no,
I take it all back.
Young kids, and none of them were like that bad. I mean, I don't know. I didn't love Halloween as much, but
no, but I agree. I agree. Like across the board, this cast is so strong. Robert Sean Leonard definitely does steal it to the point where like I think he is the standout of this film, kind of over Robin Williams.
I agree.
Which is crazy to say.
I didn't know if I could say that.
But it's kind of true.
But I'm glad you did because I was kind of true. It. Yeah. No, he's incredible.
It also helps that he's very hot, but
that's true.
That always helps. But yeah, I think he steals the show. He's the person that has always stuck in my head the most from this film. And I think I remember like I when I didn't know about House, I found it so strange that like that he hadn't had bigger success. Of course, then I found out about House and I was like, okay, he had a lot of success with that. But even then, I'm honestly shocked that he isn't bigger than that too.
He's the type of actor who I don't think he's like 60 yet, but I feel like when he reaches like older age, he's going to have some like huge role and everybody's going to be like, wow, why didn't we cast him in more things? Because that's happened to other actors. I mean, we kind of talked about it with Winona Ryder with Heathers, where she was like really big and then she wasn't. And now she is again because she actually is like an incredible actor.
Part of that is definitely like the controversy that happened with shoplifting with her, where of course, like,
but yeah,
people will punish her for like that tiny thing, even though like men who have been abusive have got away with far worse. But anyways,
Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that part of that.
We haven't talked about him in a while.
I know. I got to find a movie that he was involved in to talk about him a little more. Anyways. But back to Robert Sean Leonard. I do think that part of it is also that he has done like a lot of stuff on stage. So maybe he prefers that. So that could also be it. But even then, like,
that is a curse with a lot of actors that I found that I really enjoy, is a lot of the time they're just like, I want to be on stage instead. And, you know, I'm not a huge like stage person. I feel like it has a place and I enjoy it sometimes in certain contexts, but I don't know. I just feel like some of those, it's also a stage play is never going to be as big as a movie. Just like, period. That's just how it is. And even if it is that big, it will become a movie at some point anyway. So like, you know, if it isn't one already. So I don't know. It is kind of just, it's not sad because obviously they love what they do and that like acting on stage is incredible. It is just kind of like, wow, it's a little selfish where it's like, wow, I wish I had more access to watching this person's wonderful acting.
I will say I'm also kind of surprised that the rest of the cast of boys weren't bigger either, because I feel like I haven't seen them in much aside from this, if anything.
Well, now you can watch Best Medicine airing on Fox and streaming next day on Hulu or whatever they say on the ads.
Exactly. Let's go watch it. But that's the end of my questions.
I was going to say that's kind of about the last that I have to say, other than I really enjoyed this and I'd like to watch it again. And this is about what I expected.
Yeah, I think it's worth a rewatch.
Yeah, I feel like I felt like this was one of the movies that I was really going to like watching this season, and I was correct. So maybe I know something about some of these movies. Like sometimes there's just the ones where it's like, I know I'm going to like that. And then sometimes you get Jaws where it's like, I never would have guessed in a million years that I would enjoy that. And it was actually really good. So, you know, it's exciting both ways. It's not exciting when there's a movie that you think you're going to like and then don't, but that hasn't happened to me yet. It's always been movies where I'm like, oh, I guess I have to watch this. And then I don't like it.
I'm hopeful to bring some more surprises to you next season, because that is coming up soon, guys.
It really is.
We're almost there.
And, you know, when we're looking back at this season and remembering all the great memories that we've made, you know, we might be doing a little something special for you guys to commemorate the end of the season and the start of season 2. So keep an eye out for that.
It's so exciting.
But with that, that's the end of the episode.
I actually have a question for you. Let's say I wanted to keep an eye out for, you know, where that little announcement is going to come. Where could I possibly go to find out?
Well, there's one place and one place only, because we don't use X, formerly Twitter. And that place would be Instagram.com/unculturedpopculture, because that's where we're going to post everything.
That's right.
We tell you about the episodes when they're out. We tell you about the episodes a week in advance. Next week's episode, you can go right now and you can see what Jeffrey Katzenberg involved movie we're going to be covering next week.
Exactly.
And what album that David is going to, I don't know. feel about. That's also on Instagram, and you can get prepared. You can listen, you can watch, and you'll be so ready for next week's episode, which is going to be a great one.
Let's just say it's going to be a fun week.
It very much will be. And, if they want to see what else we watch and listen to and what our ratings are, in case they forgot after the episode's over, where can they do that, David?
Well, you can find that on our Letterboxd accounts and our Rate Your Music accounts. And if you don't know where to find that, well, guess what? You can go to the description of this episode and find our link tree, which is also on our Instagram, which is also in the link tree. So literally it's all interconnected.
It's all there for you. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a comment on Spotify. You can send us an email at upcpod@gmail.com.
That's right.
And you can let us know that we are actually your favorite podcast, because I know that we should definitely be up there if we aren't. I'll say that.
And because we are the #1 podcast, don't forget to your friends and family.
Thank you for listening to the #1 society and culture podcast this week, which is Uncultured Pop Culture. You know where to find us. And we will see you next week.
See ya.